As the years go by, we notice subtle changes in the way we live, think, and feel about the world. What once brought excitement might now bring exhaustion. What once was a joy might quietly transform into a burden. One of the clearest examples of this change is how we feel about having guests in our homes. For many of us, the older we get, the less we actually enjoy having people over. It is not about losing kindness or becoming cold or shutting others out. Instead, it is about discovering what our bodies, minds, and hearts truly need in this stage of life. Let us be honest with ourselves. Hosting guests was once simple, perhaps even fun. We had energy to clean, cook, serve, and laugh into the night. We had flexibility to rearrange our schedules and handle the noise. But now things are different, and it is perfectly natural that they are. The home, at this point in life, is not a stage for endless gatherings. It becomes a safe haven, a personal sanctuary, a place of rest. Visitors, even well-meaning ones, can sometimes disturb that sense of peace. This is not about rejecting others. It is about protecting our health, our comfort, and our peace of mind. The first and perhaps most obvious reason behind this change is health. With age, the body does not move as it once did. Hosting a guest can mean walking back and forth, preparing food, setting the table, cleaning up afterward, or simply sitting for long conversations that stretch late into the evening. For someone who tires easily, or who lives with joint pain, mobility issues, or the quiet burden of chronic conditions, these tasks become far from simple. What once felt like a light responsibility can now feel like an overwhelming challenge. Even the thought of having to prepare can cause stress. There are also practical concerns that may not cross younger people's minds. Keeping the home tidy enough for visitors, for instance, can become a daily struggle. Something as small as bending down to pick up items or dusting shelves is no longer effortless. And for older adults who need regular medication, have strict sleep routines, or must follow a special diet, the unpredictability of guests can throw the whole day off balance. Add to that the quiet worry about germs or illness, especially for those with weaker immune systems. And it is easy to understand why the door does not swing open as often as it used to. It is not that we dislike the people themselves. Rather, the act of hosting becomes physically and emotionally demanding. The older body does not tolerate fatigue the way a younger one does. After a long visit, it may take hours or even days to recover energy. The older mind, too, becomes less tolerant of unnecessary strain. Protecting health becomes not just wise, but essential. And part of that protection often means gently closing the door on frequent visitors. But beyond health lies another reason, one that is perhaps even more important: the deep peace of solitude. As we age, solitude stops being frightening and starts becoming a source of comfort. There is a difference between loneliness and solitude, though people often confuse the two. Loneliness is the aching absence of company, but solitude is the chosen presence of peace. It is the ability to sit with yourself and feel content. It is the gift of silence after a lifetime of noise. In solitude, the smallest activities take on meaning. Reading a book, listening to music, watering plants, or simply watching the sky can bring quiet joy. The heart no longer craves the same stimulation it once did. Instead, it longs for calmness, reflection, and familiarity. Visitors, even kind ones, can unintentionally break that rhythm. Their voices, movements, and demands disrupt the stillness we come to treasure. That is why, with time, fewer guests feel like a blessing, not a loss. Some might see this as becoming antisocial, but it is not. It is a shift in priorities. We begin to realize that the energy spent on constant socializing could be better used in caring for ourselves, cherishing our inner world, and enjoying the little pleasures of everyday life. The quiet of a peaceful afternoon, the comfort of a familiar chair, the soothing rhythm of a personal routine. These things grow in value with age. Solitude gives us space to heal, to rest, and to be fully ourselves without performance. This new appreciation for peace also brings a deeper awareness of how precious energy really is. When we are young, we spend energy recklessly, almost as if it will never run out. We stay up late, rush through days, entertain endlessly, and still have enough left over. But the older we become, the more we see that energy is not unlimited. Every bit of it must be guarded, like water in a well that no longer fills as quickly. Entertaining guests requires energy in many hidden ways. It is not only the physical effort of preparing meals or cleaning the house. It is also the mental focus of conversation, the emotional openness of hosting, and the constant attention to the comfort of others. All of that draws from the same limited supply of energy we now rely on for our own health and stability. At this stage of life, giving that energy away too often simply does not make sense. We begin to say no, not because we lack love, but because we must conserve strength. As a result, we grow more protective of our days, careful about where our energy flows. We choose fewer social events and fewer visitors, preferring rest to overextension. It is not selfishness, it is survival. Rest becomes sacred, and hosting too often begins to feel like a theft of that sacred resource. When we say we do not enjoy having many guests anymore, what we mean is that we cannot afford to pour our energy into every knock at the door. This naturally leads us to the idea of comfort over company. The home transforms with age. In youth, it may have been a stage for parties, dinners, and gatherings. But with time, it evolves into a haven, a retreat, a place where comfort is the highest priority. Every item, every routine, every quiet moment is part of that comfort. The arrival of guests often disrupts it. Unplanned visits can be particularly unsettling. For younger people, a surprise knock may feel exciting, but for older adults, it can feel like an intrusion. It interrupts meals, naps, or peaceful routines. Even planned visits require effort to adjust and prepare. Comfort, at this stage of life, outweighs the thrill of company. We no longer need to fill our homes with noise to feel alive. Peace itself is enough. This does not mean that we do not care for others. In fact, it often means the opposite. Because we care, we want to meet people on our own terms, when we feel ready, when our energy is steady, and when our comfort is not at risk. We want quality, not quantity, which naturally leads into another reality of growing older. Our social priorities shift. When we are young, it feels natural to keep a wide circle. We collect friends, colleagues, acquaintances, and neighbors, often measuring happiness by how many people we can gather around us. But as we age, the wide circle narrows. We no longer seek endless company. Instead, we begin to value depth over breadth. One heartfelt conversation is worth more than 10 casual visits. One trusted friend means more than a house full of acquaintances. This shift is not a loss. It is a refinement. It is life teaching us what really matters. We learn to treasure the connections that truly nourish us and to let go of those that only drain us. That is why the older we get, the less appealing it becomes to open our doors widely to every guest. We would rather save our time and energy for the relationships that bring comfort, love, and meaning. As the circle of relationships becomes smaller, our sense of what matters in human connection becomes sharper. We no longer feel the need to impress, to entertain endlessly, or to maintain countless shallow ties. Instead, we lean into the people who truly see us, who respect our needs, and who bring calmness rather than chaos into our lives. This natural filtering is part of why having guests becomes less frequent. It is not that we have no desire to see people at all. It is that we want to see the right people at the right time in ways that do not overwhelm us. A single heartfelt phone call, perhaps in the quiet of the evening, can leave the heart warmer than a house full of chatter. A gentle conversation over a cup of tea can feel more nourishing than a noisy dinner with many voices competing to be heard. The quality of connection is what we now measure, not the quantity. With this realization, it makes sense that we open our homes less often. We save our space, our time, and our energy for the connections that bring light, not exhaustion. Another reason for this shift comes from the mind and heart themselves. As the years add up, emotional sensitivity increases. We no longer tolerate certain behaviors or conversations as easily as we once did. Gossip, Comparisons, arguments, or endless chatter about things that hold little meaning can feel especially draining. Once upon a time, perhaps we could sit and listen without much thought. But now, it feels like noise that disturbs the quiet balance we fight to maintain inside. With age, many people find that their tolerance for drama or negativity shrinks. The heart grows tired of conflicts and disturbances. After decades of carrying responsibilities, facing hardships, and weathering storms, peace becomes the most valuable treasure. It is only natural then to guard it carefully. Visitors who bring stress, who speak without kindness, or who fail to respect boundaries no longer feel welcome. Even if they mean no harm, their presence can upset the calmness we have worked so hard to build. This heightened sensitivity is not weakness. It is wisdom. It is the awareness that life is too short to waste on situations that disturb the soul. Protecting emotional health becomes as important as protecting physical health. And sometimes that means saying no to visits, limiting who we allow into our homes, and choosing solitude over company. It is not rejection of others. It is acceptance of what our hearts truly need. When we step back and see the larger picture, the change becomes clear. The older we get, the less we like having guests over, not because we are unfriendly, but because life itself has shifted. Health challenges, limited energy, the value of solitude, the priority of comfort, the narrowing of social circles, and the need for emotional protection all point in the same direction. We are not turning away from the world. We are turning toward peace. This perspective is deeply important because many people feel guilty when they no longer enjoy having visitors. They worry that they are being rude, selfish, or antisocial. But guilt has no place here. Choosing peace over constant company is not a flaw. It is a sign of growth. It shows that you understand yourself, your needs, and the truth of your stage of life. In fact, learning to say no can be one of the most freeing parts of aging. It allows us to protect our energy, our health, and our comfort without apology. It allows us to design our days in ways that truly support us, not others' expectations. When we learn to do this, we find that peace becomes the guiding star of our lives. It is worth remembering, too, that less socializing at home does not mean less connection overall. Many older adults find joy in shorter, simpler interactions. Phone calls, short walks with a friend, or planned outings that do not intrude on the sanctity of home. Others turn to books, music, prayer, or reflection for a sense of companionship that feels just as real and often more sustaining. The need for connection never disappears. It simply changes form. And so, the message is simple. If you find yourself enjoying fewer guests in your home, do not judge yourself. You are not becoming bitter or cold. You are becoming more in tune with what matters most. You are allowing yourself to live honestly, gently, and peacefully. You are giving yourself permission to rest after a lifetime of giving. Think about it. For decades, you may have poured your energy into family, work, responsibilities, and obligations. You may have opened your doors countless times, hosting, serving, and making others comfortable. Now is the time to make yourself comfortable. Now is the time to let your home truly be your sanctuary. That does not mean never seeing people. It simply means choosing wisely, creating balance, and protecting your peace. When we finally accept this truth, we stop feeling pressured to conform to others' expectations. We stop apologizing for needing quiet. We stop doubting ourselves for valuing solitude. And instead, we step into a gentler, wiser way of living. We learn to listen to our bodies when they say rest. We honor our minds when they say enough. We protect our hearts when they long for stillness. In the end, the older we get, the less we like having guests over. And that is not something to regret. It is something to understand, accept, and even celebrate. It means we have reached a stage of life where peace is more valuable than performance, where comfort is more important than constant company, and where depth matters more than noise. So let us embrace this shift with grace. Let us release the guilt, the doubt, and the fear of being misunderstood. Let us instead honor the truth that our homes are now our sanctuaries, our hearts are now our guides, and our peace is now our greatest treasure. If fewer guests is what allows us to hold onto that peace, then fewer guests is exactly what we need. And maybe that is the final gift of growing older. We no longer need to open our doors wide to prove our kindness, our sociability, or our place in the world. We only need to open them when it feels right, when it brings joy, and when it aligns with the life we truly want. That is not selfish. That is wisdom. That is freedom. And that is what aging with peace and dignity is all about.